Can you see what I was doing there? I was skipping with a skipping rope. Did you know that the word skip can be used in many different ways? Skip can also mean to jump past something or to avoid something. You skip past it. You might skip a lesson. That means you don't go to the lesson. You avoid going to the class. You skip the lesson. As you can see, I am now skipping in the garden. And between you and me, this is a very vigorous exercise. It looks easy, but it isn't. I hope you are not going to skip the thing that is about to happen. Because, yes, it's a Sunday afternoon, it's just after 2 o'clock here in the UK, and this is Live English.
Live from Much Wenlock in England on a Sunday afternoon, this is Live English.
It sure is, baby. Here we go again. Do. It's a Sunday. It's a fun day. It's time to improve your English. Yes, here we are once again, and I hope you are feeling super duper on this Sunday afternoon. Hi everybody, this is Mr. Duncan in England. How are you today? Are you okay? I hope so. Are you happy? Well, are you happy? I really hope so. So here we are all together today, and it is a super duper Sunday, and it's absolutely gorgeous outside. It is so lovely outside. I can't begin to tell you how nice it is outside. I can't resist showing you the view. Now, last week I mentioned that I really missed going outside. So today we're going to have a look outside, and it is so bright and sunny at the moment. Oh, look at that. It's incredible. What an incredible day. There is the view right now outside the window of my studio. A live view looking into the distance, and you might be able to see in the distance there is some snow on the mountains. And those mountains are actually in Wales. So we are looking across towards the west of where I live, and you can see lots of mountains, and they are the Welsh Hills, and they are very high. In fact, they are so high you can see that they are covered with snow. So that is the view right now. It's very cold outside, but we are having an absolutely gorgeous day today. It is pretty nice, to say the least. And I hope where you are, everything is all right as well. So here we go again. Hasn't this week been interesting? It's been a very interesting week around the world. Lots of extreme weather, including here in the UK. Now, certain parts of the UK this week had a lot of snow, although here, where I live, there was very little snow, so we escaped the snow today. But this morning the weather was so nice, and I really wanted to go outside. In fact, I was toying with the idea of going outside. Now, there's a very interesting expression, toying with the idea. If you are toying with the idea, it means you are considering it. It is something that you might do. You are considering it in your mind. You are toying with the idea. You are thinking about doing it. You are considering it. So I think I was on time today. Was I on time today? Because last week I was incredibly late. But today, everything is okay. There are no technical problems. Everything is super duper today. And I hope it will remain so. Well, it's nice to see you here. Of course, we have the live chat. We can't have a live English stream without the live chat. So let's have a look at the live chat right now, shall we? Who was first? Oh, hello to G. Luciano for being first. Congratulations. Hello to you. And of course, you get a super duper round of applause. Well done. Well done indeed. So thank you for having a very quick finger. In second place, we have Julie G. Hello, Julie. Nice to see you back again. Anna is here. Martha, Hassan. Blue Thunder says it's another Sunday, another fun day. Yes, it is. It's time to improve your English listening skills. We also have Mr. Bruno. Hello to you as well. Lots of people on the live chat. Hello from Malaysia, says Hiroko. Belarusia is here. How are you feeling today, Belarusia? I hope you are feeling better, because last week you told me that you weren't feeling too well. So I hope the thing that you are suffering with at the moment is not as bad as it was 7 days ago. Pedro is also here. Of course, don't forget, Belarusia and Pedro are the moderators on the live chat. Suran or Srijan is here as well. Also, I think that's Lena watching in Russia. Gosia, Quilinka. Where are you watching at the moment? Is it your first time here? If it is your first time watching me today or joining in on the live chat, don't be shy. You can say, Mr. Duncan, it's my first time here. And I will give you a special round of applause. Hello also from Indonesia, says Bumblebee. Also we have Trong, GT Luciano, and also Anna Rita is here as well. Francisco, Attila, also Sathya, Guadalupe is here as well. Where are you watching at the moment? I'm very interested. I'm always very interested to find out where you are watching in the world. And if you would like to send a photograph to me, maybe you would like to send a picture to me showing yourself watching my live stream, you can do so. There is absolutely no problem whatsoever. Also, Mustafa is here on the live chat. And Tomek, hello to Tomek. Hello to Shadow46. Ooh, I must say your name is very intriguing. Shadow46. Also, we have lots of other people. Sukat is here. Hello, Sukat. Nice to see you here today. Also, we have Shahid. Also, Hirai. Hello to you as well. Wow, so many people watching right now. Alrov says, I love you, Mr. Duncan. I am from Iraq. A big hello to Iraq. Don't forget, if it is your first time speaking on the live chat, please let me know and I will give you a special super duper hello back. Chandrakant is here as well. Chandakrant. I hope I pronounced your name right. Where are you watching? Jamelia is here. Apparently in Algiers, it is a very cold, rainy, haily day. So you have frozen ice falling from the sky. Rosa is here. Fatima. Also we have Lucia and Manoj Saturino. Modi Body. That's a very interesting name there. Also, Kadni. Hello, Mr. Duncan. I'm watching from Kenya. Wow, thank you very much. It's nice to know that I have so many viewers watching around the world, including Kenya. So it's nice to see you here. Great to see you here on the live chat. I think that's almost it for the live chat. Today, let's have a look. Today is the day after Groundhog Day. Oh, thank you, Michelle, for reminding me. Yes. Now, this is something that doesn't happen here. We don't have it here. But in the USA, there is a place where they have a special ceremony every year on the 2nd of February. And what they do is they ask an animal called a groundhog, they ask it if there will be more winter or maybe more summer. So they are asking when summer, or should I say spring, will arrive. So they ask the animal, and the animal will whisper in someone's ear whether or not they have more terrible winter weather still to come, or maybe spring will arrive early. So yes, Groundhog Day. It is something that happens in the United States every year. Also, it's the title of a movie starring Bill Murray as well. A very good movie. Carla is here on the live chat. Hello, Mr. Duncan from Udine in northern Italy. We have sunshine too. Yes, we are having a lovely day today. I can't begin to tell you how lovely it is outside. I was thinking of going outside for the live stream, but I decided not to because I realised that it was far too cold. So don't be fooled by the weather. It might look lovely outside. There it is. That is a live view right now outside the window. So it might look lovely, but it's absolutely freezing. It's only about 2 degrees at the moment outside. It is very cold. And I was outside this morning doing a little bit of filming. But I've decided to stay in the house. I've decided to stay in my lovely, warm studio. The live chat is very busy. Thanks for joining me. Oh, by the way, did you see my special live stream during the week? Did you see my special live stream during the week? I was actually on Facebook. I did a short Facebook stream for about 40 minutes during the week. Just something that I decided to do on the spur of the moment. So something that wasn't planned. So I was actually on Facebook this week, live, for a very short time. But usually I am here on YouTube every Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. Jessica is here. I have never heard of Groundhog Day. Is it a habit? It is so weird. Yes, it is a strange thing. I suppose you could call it a custom or a tradition. So something that has been done for many years. We call it a tradition or maybe a custom. Something that is done in a certain place or a certain area at a certain time can be described as a custom. Custom. Ban is here. Ban Kui, watching in Vietnam. Hello to you. We also have, we have Mr. Jarek. Hello, Mr. Jarek. This is Mr. Jarek from Poland. How are you today? Are you happy? I really, really hope so. Yes, I'm super duper. And thank you for saying hello, Mr. Jarek. Isn't that nice? We have also Pavina. What is the difference between belief and believe? Well, the belief is the thing that you do believe in. And if you believe it, then you feel that it's true. So belief is the thing that you feel. And believe is trusting something, or maybe you have faith in something. You believe it. It is your belief. Juan says, good morning, Mr. Duncan. I'm watching you from Colombia. Eduardo is here. Hello, everyone from Mexico. Hi, Mexico. A big hello to you. And I know that I have a lot of people watching at the moment in Mexico. So a big hi to you as well. Saturino says, when I worked in the USA, a groundhog would stick its head out of its den And if it went back in, it would mean that it would be a long winter. Now, as I understand it, the groundhog has to see his shadow. So if he does see his shadow, I think that means you have an early spring. But if he doesn't see his shadow, I think that means you're going to have another 6 weeks of winter. I think so. I might be wrong there. Perhaps I should have researched that before coming on. What is the meaning of the word ironic? Ironic means to do something that is the opposite to what the meaning normally is. So if you do something ironic, it means the opposite. Or maybe you give something the opposite meaning. Something is ironic. Ironic. Lucia says, good morning, Mr. Duncan from Verona, a lovely city in Italy. Oh, thank you very much. A big hello to Verona as well. Oh my goodness, so many people on today. Thank you very much. It's nice to see so many people here on the live chat. Of course, coming up later on, we have, yes, he's back. He will be here after 2:30. We are talking Mr. Steve. Yes, Mr. Steve will be here after 2:30. It's a Sunday, it's a fun day, it's time to improve your English. We are talking about a few different subjects today, quite a few things today. First of all, I don't want to be too sad today, but we are talking about something that is a rather sad and maybe some might say depressing subject. Do you ever feel lonely? Now, apparently, here in the UK, there was a report published last week that says that more people than ever before now consider themselves as being or feeling lonely. So more people than ever. Now, I wonder why this is so. Do you know? Do you know why people are feeling so lonely these days? So apparently, here in the UK, there is an epidemic of loneliness. More and more people feel lonely and isolated. They feel cut off from the rest of the world. So do you ever feel lonely? Also today, something nice, something positive. Have you ever won a prize? Yes, a very interesting question indeed. Have you ever won a prize? Have you ever won a competition? Or maybe you've won a special award? Maybe at work? Or maybe you took part in a competition and maybe you came first? So have you ever won a prize? Perhaps you entered a competition and maybe you were picked from a group of names. So maybe you won a prize in a competition. Maybe you were the winner of a contest. Perhaps you entered a singing contest and maybe you came first. Maybe you came in first place. So that is today's question. Have you ever won a prize? Have you ever won anything in a competition? And also the other question today is, do you ever feel lonely? Do you ever feel lonely? I think loneliness, to be honest, I think loneliness is a normal thing. I think it's something that happens in everyone's lives. I think from time to time, we all feel a little bit lonely. On a sad note, now I don't want to be too sad today, but on a sad note, it is a sad anniversary today because it's 60 years. Can you believe it? 60 years since the singer Buddy Holly died in a plane crash. It was on this day, the 3rd of February, 1959, Clear Lake, Iowa, in the United States, that Buddy Holly was killed in a plane crash, along with Ritchie Valens, another singer, and also another singer called The Big Bopper. And there it is. There is the very sad sight of the plane that crashed on this day in 1959, killing Buddy Holly, also the Big Bopper and Ritchie Valens. And just to show how fateful that date is or was, here is the poster that was advertising the concert that they all appeared in, which took place the day before. So there was a concert that took place starring the Big Bopper, Ritchie Valens, and also Buddy Holly. And they were all on the plane that crashed the following day as they headed home. So a very sad event. And, of course, Buddy Holly, famous for many songs, many classic songs. That'll Be the Day. That'll be the day when you say goodbye. That'll be the day when you make me cry. Also, It Doesn't Matter Anymore. I guess it doesn't matter anymore. And can you name another Buddy Holly song? Can you name another song made famous by Buddy Holly? Someone might say that, Mr. Duncan, you look a little bit like Buddy Holly. We think you look slightly similar in features to Buddy Holly. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if that's true or not, but can you name another Buddy Holly song? As I said, a sad anniversary today, 60 years since Buddy Holly was tragically killed in a plane crash. So, very sad. We are going to have a look at something very soon because it is a special day next week. Do you know what day it is next week? On Tuesday, it is a very special day because it is the Chinese New Year. And of course, it is the Lunar New Year as well on the 5th of February. And we are going to have a look at a special video which will be taking a look at that special event in a few moments' time. First of all, back to the live chat, because sometimes I am accused of ignoring the live chat. So we will have another look at the live chat very quickly. Who is on the live chat? Tati is here. Tati says, I feel lonely now. Oh, don't be lonely. You don't have to be lonely today because it's Sunday. It's a fun day. And we are all here sharing our English. Louis says, have you ever won a prize from YouTube after such hard work? After such hard work for 12 years. Can you believe it? I have never received my award from YouTube. So when I passed 100,000 subscribers, I didn't receive an award. I didn't get my play button. I didn't get anything. So no, the answer to that question, Louis, is no. No, I don't know why. I think maybe I'm not that important when it comes to YouTube in general. Tung says, I don't even him. I don't know what that means. Estanislao says, I feel extremely lonely. I haven't spoken to anyone since 2009. What? You haven't spoken to anyone in 10 years? Well, you're speaking to me now, so that must mean something. Palmyra says, many years ago I won a prize due to my best knowledge of French between students. But now my French is very poor because I have not been using that language at all. This is something that I have talked about in the past. If you don't use something, you lose it. And the same thing applies to language. So if you are learning a language and then you stop using it or you stop practicing it, then it will slowly fade away. It's true. Tati says, I feel lonely now because I'm far from my family. I think so. I think if you are a long way from your family, if you are a long way from your loved ones, maybe you are in a different city or maybe a different country, it can be a very lonely experience. Accruitment says, you are very important. You have done many important things. I would be glad to meet you if you ever come to Ireland. Thank you very much. Accruitment. Accruitment. I hope I pronounced your name right there. I have a feeling that I've mispronounced it. Anna says, why don't you receive any prize from YouTube for your subscribers? It isn't fair. I don't know why, but I've never received a play button or any prize at all, any award from YouTube ever. I don't know why. Also, Emma is here. We will give you the Best Teacher Award, Mr. Duncan. Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you. Tomek says, I won a prize at work for the best performance in December. I was awarded a free lunch at our cafeteria. Congratulations, Tomek. Now, there is a special reason why I'm mentioning this today, because there is something that I'm going to talk about with Mr. Steve, because Mr. Steve had a nice surprise this week, a nice big surprise. But what was it? Find out a little bit later on. Right now, we are going to have a look at one of my lessons, and this is connected to something that we are going to talk about this week, because the Chinese New Year is on its way. It is. And so here for you now, we are going to take a look at one of my lessons all about the Lunar New Year and the Chinese New Year. Hi everybody, my name is Mr. Duncan.
And my name's Mr. Lomax.
Well, February is here again, and for many people this is a special month because
it's the month of the Lunar New Year.
Yes, this month will see millions of people welcome in the new Lunar Year, including those living in China.
Each Chinese New Year has a special symbol to represent it. These symbols are all animals.
That is true. Besides China, the Lunar New Year is celebrated in other countries too, including Korea, Mongolia, Tibet, and Vietnam. Due to the variation of the moon's orbit around the Earth, the Lunar New Year never occurs on the same day. It can occur in late January or mid to late February, depending on how each new year is calculated.
Some Lunar New Years are shorter and some are longer,
which means that each Lunar New Year occurs around the same time every year, but not on the same day. It is worth remembering that the moon orbits the Earth every 27.3 days.
There are some common customs that are observed during the Lunar New Year celebrations.
The giving of money, normally in a red envelope. New clothes are normally worn on the Lunar New Year day. Family reunions normally take place during the Lunar New Year celebrations. Colourful decorations are normally put up. Lucky charms are often placed on the front door of each house. This is especially significant in China. Fireworks and firecrackers are normally let off as the new year arrives, so as to ward off the evil spirits.
Do you know what is ironic, Mr. Duncan?
No, what?
The fact that you are making a lesson about a part of the world where your videos are blocked.
Yes, it is ironic that my videos are blocked in China, and here I am talking all about a Chinese custom. Isn't the world a crazy place?
Well, Mr. Duncan, that just about wraps this lesson up. But I have one question for you.
Fire away.
Will I be appearing in more of your lessons?
Would you like to?
Yes, that would be cool. What do you think?
It's a Sunday, it's a fun day, it is time to improve your English. And of course, it's a Sunday, and it wouldn't be Sunday without the guy who always looks so happy, especially this week, because he has had some very good news. Yes, it's Mr. Steve. There he is.
Hello, Mr. Duncan. Hello to everybody out there in the world of English. And it's wonderful to be back here yet again on this very cold and dry Sunday afternoon. I've been outside, Mr. Duncan, skipping. What do you think to that?
I think that's pretty amazing. I must admit, I think that's pretty amazing. You look slightly red.
Yeah, I've been, because it's very cold outside. It's about -3 outside. -3 centigrade, that is. Not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. But it's -3 out there, so it's below freezing, 3 degrees below the freezing point of water.
Okay.
And I was away this week on a conference, a sales conference for the company I work for. And they're trying to get us fit.
Okay.
They're putting a lot of effort into physical and mental health and well-being at work at the moment.
So keeping your body healthy and also your mind healthy.
It's corporate responsibility. So they are feeling responsible for your physical health as well as your mental health, so that you're well and can perform at your job as well as possible, which I think is a good thing.
It's a good idea.
It's a very good idea. So this week when we went along, there was a little table. Well, they want us to have an app on our phones, and they're trying to set up competition to see how many steps you can walk every week.
Okay.
And there's I think you're supposed to do 5,000 steps a day or something to be healthy.
5,000?
Something like that. It's a lot.
5,000 sounds like a lot. That's like you've got to walk about, what, a mile?
I don't know. I think just walking around normally in your day, I think you probably quite easily do that. But our jobs in sales are very sedentary. So we're sitting down a lot in the car.
That's a great word, by the way.
Sedentary. It means you just sit down. You don't walk very much or do very much activity.
So, for example, if you work in an office, if you sit down in your job, maybe you are a bus driver or a taxi driver, or like me, I mean, sometimes my job is very sedentary because I have to sit in front of my computer doing the editing for my lessons.
Sedentary or sedentary job, yes, it means you don't do. So you're not supposed to sit down for long, are you, doing nothing?
No.
So they're encouraging us to use this app on our phones, and then there's a little competition to see who can walk the most number of steps in a week, and they're giving out little prizes. But what they were giving out as well was skipping ropes, which is unusual. But they were giving out these free skipping ropes. And you think skipping is such an easy activity. Skipping in this country, at least, is associated with something that girls would do.
Yes.
Isn't it? It's seen as a bit of a sissy thing for a boy or a man to use a skipping rope.
Well, you can skip along like this. Do, 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 do. So you can skip like this. This is skipping as well. But also skipping using a skipping rope, like at the beginning of today's lesson. I was using a skipping rope.
That's right. And of course, boxers use it to keep fit, don't they? You always see boxers with skipping ropes. And I'll tell you, it is a very tough activity.
It's not easy.
Because it's not easy skipping. It uses, my goodness, I haven't done it for years. And I was doing it outside. I couldn't do it for more than about 5 minutes. I was completely out of breath. And today, I tried it first on Friday, but all my calves are aching.
Yes. So Steve's legs are now aching.
They're aching.
Just from a few minutes of skipping. So it's a very strenuous exercise.
Cardiovascular is very good. It's as good as running, and I want to use it because when it's raining, I like running, but I've got an ankle problem, so I've got to be careful how much I do. But skipping is going to be a great way of getting some quick cardiovascular exercise in 10-15 minutes done. I think it's going to be great. You just go outside in your yard and just do some quick exercise.
Yeah.
And I bet you can do it indoors as well if you've got a high ceiling.
Talking of work, you had a nice little surprise this week. You had something occur in your life that gave you a nice moment of time, a lot of praise, a lot of applause. Mr. Steve this week in his company came top.
I'm the best.
Ooh.
I'm number one, numero uno, the big cheese.
Okay, that's
Yes. Oh, Mr. Duncan's given me my own microphone now.
yes.
You?
Okay, we don't care about that.
And he's worried I'm going to shout too
Well,
much.
I did say don't shout, or at least give me a warning.
I've been working hard all year, and I am number one in the sales force.
Not just in the area, but the whole company. So the whole UK company.
Beaten them all, beaten them. Oh, I'm scheming and secretly selling lots without telling people I was number one. Oh, it feels good, Mr. Duncan.
You know, a few weeks ago we were talking about you, how modest you are.
Not today.
Not today. But not only that, not only has Mr. Steve come top in the whole of the company, so not just 2 or 3 people, but everyone.
Yes.
You've also won a prize.
You don't get a lot, but when I say yes,
What?
I've won a holiday. That's the prize as well. Yes, it's a holiday.
That's a lot.
I know.
What do you mean it's not a lot?
And you can take your partner with you, which is great. So that's our holiday this year, Mr. Duncan.
So not only is Mr. Steve going on holiday, but also you can take someone else with you.
Yes.
And so that means I'm going as well. So
Pardon?
we've got a free holiday.
You think you're going?
Oh, I see what we're doing now. You're going to pretend that I'm not coming with you. Is that what we're doing?
I've got a few other people in mind, but I suppose you could come.
We don't even know.
I'm only joking.
We don't even know where we're going.
We don't know yet.
We don't know where it is, where it will be, but at the moment we're not sure. But the one thing I'm worried about is we might go abroad, because I haven't got a passport at the moment. My passport has expired. So there is something to look forward to. Apparently it's happening in June.
In June, and we will be able to film, and maybe we could even do a live broadcast.
Don't say when, though.
I don't know when it is.
No, we don't know when it is yet.
We don't know when or where.
We don't know when or where, but it will be a holiday and it will be free. and we're both going on it. Isn't that nice? So I must admit, I feel quite excited by
Well,
that.
we haven't been abroad on holiday for many years. Probably about 7 years, I would say.
It's longer than that. We haven't been on holiday for nearly about 8 years.
Because we're so busy. You're so busy all the time, dedicating yourself 100% to the world of English and teaching.
Well, of course, we have been on short trips in the UK, but it's been a long time since we've been abroad. I mean, we've been to many countries. We had a nice holiday, didn't we, in Madeira,
We did many years ago.
Portuguese island, Madeira. Also, we went to Turkey. We've been to Turkey twice. Very nice. You also came to see me in China.
I did.
When I was living in China, you came to see me. So we've been to some rather nice places. Also, Greece. We've been to Greece. I think Mr. Steve wants to look at the live
chat.
The live chat is now on the screen.
Yes, because Greg says travelling with abroad. As
Sorry?
opposed to, you see, I said we're travelling abroad.
Yeah.
So if you say you're travelling abroad, it means you're going to another country. But Greg says travelling with abroad.
Okay. Explain.
Well, that's a different meaning altogether. He's joking because travelling with abroad is a slang word for a woman.
Oh, I see.
Travelling with abroad.
Yes,
So going away with a woman.
Maybe if
Very
this was
clever.
maybe if this was the 1940s, maybe.
Yes. Well, I don't know. Perhaps in America they still use that phrase.
I don't think anyone
to
uses
describe a
broad.
woman.
But it's a good idea, though. It's a good idea. Yes, travelling with abroad. So Mr. Steve is not travelling with a woman. Unfortunately, he's going to have to travel with me.
Saturino, no, they did not raise my salary. It's just it's in this company. It's more about the prestige of getting it.
Prestige.
Yes, getting that award rather than being actually rewarded for getting it.
I like that word, by the way. It's prestige.
But anyway, I haven't had that for about 7 years. I had it 7 years ago, and I was determined this year that I was going to beat everybody.
Yes.
Every now and then, you just all the planets align. Everything. What I mean by that is that everything comes together.
Yes.
And everything comes together, and your targets and everything, and you know you're going to get it if you work hard. Because some years you get your targets and you think, oh, there's no way I'm ever going to get those. And then some environmental factors like something might be against you in your area for some reason. But some years everything comes together, all the planets align, and you go for it.
So sometimes it just seems like everything just works out for you.
Yes.
That's good. We've got a few questions on the live chat. Of course, I welcome your questions. That is no problem. Let's have a look. Oh, one or two congratulations, first of all. Congratulations to Mr. Steve from Inigo.
Thank you.
It's very kind.
Thank you.
Are you going to go to Scotland? I don't think we're going to Scotland.
I'd like to go to Scotland.
It might be abroad. I think it's going to be overseas.
Overseas. So when we say abroad, just going to Scotland wouldn't be classed as going abroad. It's got to be a different country.
Hi, Mr. Steve, you are right. 5 minutes of skipping equals 1 kilometre of jogging.
Really?
That's good.
Valentin, thank you very much. Because I could tell that it was using a lot of energy because I was getting very out of breath. So 5 minutes of skipping equals 1 kilometre of jogging. That's it. So, so if I do 10 minutes of that, that's high cardiovascular. It's a very time-efficient way of keeping fit. So,
Ivan asks a question. What does it mean, expired?
Expired.
So if something has expired, it means it has run out. It no longer is useful. It's no longer useful, or it no longer works. It has ended. So, as I said earlier, my passport has expired.
It's gone past the date where it's valid.
Yes, or can be used.
Or can be used. And if you can have a pharmaceutical product that has expired. If you look on the dates of most medicines, there's a date and after that date you can't use it, so it's expired.
And also food as well.
Food.
So food can expire. Normally, if the food will go bad, it will expire, so you can no longer eat it. So expire means to end, or maybe the usefulness of something has ended. It has expired. Also, you can use the word expire to mean die.
Yes, you can.
If a person dies, we can say that they have expired.
That's right. But usually there's a certain date, and then after that date you can no longer use that thing, like a passport, for example. So your passport, say, ran out on the 1st of January, it's expired. You can't use it after that date.
That's it. It's no good.
It's no good.
I've just been asked, why don't you come to Japan, says Emma. I've never been to Japan, but can I just share something with you? I've always been fascinated by Japan. I've never been there. And talking of Japan, in the news today, Japanese car company Nissan has announced that it's not going to build its big SUV here in the UK. It's been a very big news story here in the UK. So
It has indeed.
did you know that Nissan is the largest car producer in the country, in this country?
Well, I didn't know that, but I know that we've got a lot of Japanese car plants in the UK.
Yes.
This is in Sunderland, isn't it?
It is?
Which is in the north of the country. And I think it was back in the late 1980s that Nissan decided to build a plant in the UK in Sunderland.
A factory.
A giant factory, because we obviously went into Europe in the 1970s, and it was a good place to manufacture cars, and then where you had that whole of the European market in which to sell in. And at the time, they got some big incentives to come here, didn't they? Margaret Thatcher, I believe.
During the late 1980s, we were encouraging companies from overseas to come to our country to set up their factories. And for many years, this worked very well, didn't it?
Yes, it has done, because, yes.
But of course, things over the years have changed for various reasons. First of all, changes in technology, Steve.
Technology, yes.
The way cars operate, the way they work. We'll talk about that in a moment. Also, economic problems as well. So the economy of this country has changed over the years. During the 1990s, there was a big recession, and then everything got better. And need I remind you all about 2008? Everything went wrong. The banking crisis, everything went really badly, and it hasn't really recovered since then, has it?
It's getting better.
Slowly.
You mean the yes.
And now, of course, we have
The big B word.
Brexit. So also that is causing a lot of uncertainty. So Nissan, the car company Nissan, have decided not to build their new SUV. It's a big car.
Sport utility vehicle.
Yes.
The fastest growing sector of cars in the world. Everybody wants an SUV.
That's it.
Started in America. They're just overinflated versions. They're just bigger versions of saloon cars,
Yeah,
higher up.
They're just big, giant cars for people to drive around
That's it.
But the problem is, and this is the point I wanted to make when it comes to car technology, is the fuel that cars use over the years has changed.
That's right. Yes, but because diesel, of course, became very popular because there were tax incentives.
Yes.
For company cars, in particular, for people to have diesel cars as company cars. You
Yes.
paid less tax.
So in the beginning, we had petrol.
And of course, diesel is, and of course, what happened was that around the 1980s, 1990s, I can't remember when it was now, CO2 was the big problem with global warming and emissions. And CO2, petrol cars give out more CO2
Yes.
than diesel cars.
That's it.
Although diesel cars actually give a better in terms of economy.
Yes.
But now, because of the particles, these little particles in diesel, diesel has now become very unpopular because it's the small little particles that cause all sorts of problems with your lungs. And you don't get that so much with petrol cars. It is there, but not so much. And then there was a big scandal around Volkswagen, who were diesel cars. If you notice the economy and the CO2, the particle levels, the emission levels of diesel cars, what was being published by the manufacturers turned out to be false.
Yes, but at that time as well, car manufacturers had to stick to certain regulations as to how much pollution the cars produced.
That's it.
And I think someone has just mentioned that on the live chat. Tobagiga just mentioned Volkswagen.
Thank you, Jeff. Chocolate. Oh,
Thank you, Jeff. Jeff has sent a donation, $5. Thank you very much.
thank you very much.
That is a prize for Mr. Steve. I think that's for you.
I might put it towards the Ford Mustang, of course.
Okay.
Yes, diesel cars have never been particularly popular in America, but they became very popular here in Europe because they give much better economy. And the bigger the car, the advantage to diesel becomes greater because you get much better economy. But diesel is now totally out of fashion. One, because manufacturers, not just Volkswagen, but they were the first ones that were found out to be falsifying their emissions, because they do their emissions testing in very controlled conditions.
Yes. Yeah. Let's just keep the technical.
Keep it down. That's it.
Keep the technical stuff down. So all I'm saying is, petrol was originally the popular one.
Yes.
Diesel was really for lorries and buses. So we have buses and lorries, but then later cars started using diesel. And then we realised that petrol and diesel were bad for the environment.
Particularly diesel.
So they got car manufacturers to change the way they constructed cars and the way they worked. And so in certain parts of the world, diesel was popular, and in other parts of the world, it wasn't. And so that's one thing that's changing here. And that's one of the reasons why you had that big car factory by Nissan built here, because a lot of diesel cars were being manufactured.
Well, these SUVs that they wanted to manufacture were going to be predominantly diesel.
Yeah.
And because diesel is no longer popular for various reasons, rightly or wrongly, I think it'll turn back. I think diesel will become popular again, because if you've got a big SUV, you're going to get very poor miles per gallon from a petrol-powered SUV. It'd probably be at least 10 to 15 miles per gallon less, I would say. I've just switched to a petrol car because I've had to with work. And I used to have a diesel car, and I was getting well over 50 to the gallon. I'm now only getting about less than 40.
When you say 50 to the gallon, you mean you could travel for 50 miles on 1 gallon of petrol.
That's it. So, I think diesel will come back, unless electric car. Anyway, we could talk about this all day, Mr. Duncan.
Yes.
We've got other things to talk about.
The point I was making, though, was the fact that because of the change in the way people use cars, I think there are more cars on the road than ever before. Certainly, there are more electric cars now on the road. And also, because of the changes of habits as well, that some cars become unpopular and some cars become more popular.
It's usually political. It's all politically driven.
Well, it's interesting that your car is a hybrid now. You've got a car that runs on both petrol and electricity.
That's right. And the economy is absolutely useless. It's hopeless.
Yes. What do you mean by economy?
A very poor economy.
Yes, but what do you mean by that?
Poor. Well, I don't get very many miles per gallon.
So when you drive the car, the fuel efficiency is bad,
because you're carrying around a load of heavy batteries.
Yes.
The worst thing for economy is weight. But somebody's just can you just go? Somebody made a very interesting comment on the that attracted me. There we go. Mr. J says that their favourite car is a Ford Mondeo.
Okay.
Now, I had 2 Ford Mondeos in a row many years ago, and I still think it was my favourite ever car.
Okay.
Ford Mondeo, it just drove beautifully. It's just a wonderfully driving, handling car.
I do remember it.
Yes.
I remember your Ford Mondeo.
That's right.
But it was also a slightly sporty version. So
yes.
it had a nice engine. It had those lovely sports seats.
The most comfortable seats I've ever sat in.
They were the most amazing thing.
They were.
So I think one of my favourite cars that you've had in the past is a Ford Mondeo.
It was a great car. It's inexpensive, hasn't got any sort of snob value to it. It's an everyday workhorse car, big car. You can get lots of people in it, lots of things in it. It does the job, and it does it very well. In fact, in most comparison tests, often the Ford Mondeo comes out better than much more expensive cars like the Volkswagen Passat. Because it's just a well-built. All Ford cars are good. They're all good cars.
Yes.
You can't go wrong with them. Anyway, we're not being sponsored by Ford.
No.
But yes, very good cars.
Well, we haven't just
indeed.
mentioned Ford. We mentioned lots of other
We have.
companies today. So anyway, but if any car manufacturer would like to sponsor us, you are more than welcome. Steve loves cars very much. So
Emma asks, are there many electric cars in the UK? No. They're becoming more popular, but because they're so expensive, they're much more expensive than a normal petrol or diesel-powered car, and most people aren't prepared to spend that money yet, because unless you're going to get that economy back, okay, it's cheaper to charge up your car, but is it? As I've discovered, it
Yes.
is not cheap to charge up your car.
But the thing is with you, yours isn't even electric, it's a hybrid. So it's a mixture of the two. So if something is a hybrid, it means you've taken an element of one thing and an element of something else and you've combined it. It is a hybrid. So your car runs on petrol and electricity.
Yes.
But you've discovered, rather shockingly,
Yes.
that your electricity bill had doubled.
And the battery in the car I've got is supposed to take you 22 miles, but it never does. I'm lucky if I get 12, even driving it. If you try going up a hill, it's just literally counting down. The battery runs out virtually instantly. They are useless
Okay.
unless you are only travelling 10 miles to work and back, and you're getting very cheap rate electricity to charge it up with. Otherwise, they're a complete waste of money. I would never have bought it. It's a company car, but you save lots of tax on electric cars in this country.
Very good point from Inigo. Hybrid cars are only worth the money for urban use.
Yes.
So that's what you say. So if you only commute around the town, if you just use the car to go shopping and then you go back home, you don't drive many miles to get somewhere.
Yes.
I suppose the electric car is okay. But as you've discovered, because you do many miles in your car,
Yes.
so it's not really useful. It's not good.
No,
So you've actually almost stopped using the electric side.
I've stopped it because I worked out it was costing me, because I thought, yes, I thought I'd get more miles per gallon, which you do get if you charge the battery up. You do get about 5 or 6 more miles per gallon, but you don't get that cost back in the electricity that you've put in anywhere near. You better, and if you've got hills, the battery is used up just so dramatically quickly, far more than using the petrol. So yes, and you wouldn't buy one. No, you wouldn't buy one yourself unless you did very small miles.
Yes.
And you could charge it up using cheap electricity. But in this country, if you have a hybrid car as a company car, you save a lot on tax, because we get taxed heavily. If you have a company car, you get taxed very heavily.
So you have to pay a lot of tax.
So you pay a lot of tax. But if you have a hybrid car, you pay about less than half the tax than if you were to have, say, a diesel car or an electric car, which is why I went for one.
Someone's just mentioned something here. What a nice expression. Workhorse car. That's a good
Yes.
one. Yes, that is actually a good word, isn't it? Workhorse.
Yes.
If something is a workhorse, it means it can do heavy or strenuous things. It's very good for doing something over a long period of time.
Yes.
Or if you want to do something that means it has to be tough and strong, it can be described as a workhorse.
You've got a lot to do. So yes, a workhorse car it's got to do lots of miles. It's got to be reliable. It's just got to do the job, and you haven't got to worry about it. It can take the miles and
That's it.
pound up and down the motorways.
Yes. But you can describe anything as a workhorse.
Yes, you can. Yes.
So you can say a person. A person is a bit of a workhorse. Or maybe if your computer is very powerful and it can do many things, you could describe your computer as a workhorse. I think my computer is a workhorse because it has to do lots of things.
Something that works hard and is reliable, like a horse would be. Lovely. We've had lots of messages today, Mr. Duncan.
I tell you something, it's a busy one today. We are talking about other things today. Now, here's one for Steve. Mr. Steve, do you ever feel lonely?
Well, no, I don't.
I would say that you're not a lonely person. I think I would say that you like being with other people.
I do. I like being with other people and I like being on my own. So I rarely feel lonely. When you were in China, I probably was a bit lonely then,
Well,
Mr. Duncan.
I was lonely when I was in China, to be honest,
That's right.
because I was in a strange place. I was in a strange place. I was in a strange land, far away from everyone. And, well, I felt very lonely when I was away from Mr. Steve. But I think it's normal. Personally, I think it's normal to feel lonely. I think we all feel lonely from time to time. I think it's a normal thing, to be honest.
Yes, we can't always have company.
Yeah, we can't always be surrounded by people and friends and always be with lots and lots of people in a crowded place. So sometimes we have to be alone. To be honest with you, this is where you and I are very different. Because
Yes.
you love being in company. You love being with other people.
I do, but I also like being alone.
Oh, okay. But I think you do crave company. I think you like being with people. You like socializing.
I do.
Whereas I think I'm the opposite.
Wow.
I would not describe myself as a social person. So I find myself in social situations. Sometimes I feel very awkward or very uncomfortable. So I'm not very... I mean, a lot of people are surprised. They think I'm lying when I say this. But I really don't like social situations. I like to be sure of who I'm going to be with. So I don't like going to a place or going to a party if I don't know the people there. I feel really, really anxious.
Out of your comfort zone.
Very much, very much out of my comfort zone. So I think loneliness is normal. But to be honest, I do quite like being on my own. I like solitude. So sometimes you go out and I can relax and I like my own company. I can always find something to do. And if I'm not doing something, I can always go outside or maybe watch some TV. So to be honest, I'm quite happy being on my own. I quite like it. And then when Mr. Steve comes back, I feel even more happy. I feel very excited because Steve is back with me. Isn't that nice?
Can I put this up now, Mr. Duncan? Now we're talking about lonely.
Loneliness. Would you like your camera?
Are you lonely, Mr. Duncan?
I think Mr. Steve wants his camera. So are you ready to go on your camera?
Well, it was for both of us, really.
Oh,
To talk about, yes.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
Well, it's a sort of, well, I can do.
I didn't know that.
Which camera am I on, Mr. Duncan?
Okay, we're on the big camera.
Here we go. There's 3 words. There's alone,
Okay.
just the use of the words. Alone, lonely, and the other word, lone.
Oh, okay.
There are three different words that have similar meanings. So alone and lonely. So if you're alone, it means you're not with anybody. Or anything else, any other animals. He was alone in his flat.
Mm-hmm.
But being alone doesn't necessarily mean that you're unhappy about it. If you use the word alone, it doesn't mean you're unhappy.
Okay.
It doesn't imply in unhappiness, whereas lonely implies unhappiness. If you're never happy if you're lonely. Lonely means you're on your own and you're unhappy about it.
Yes.
Whereas being alone means you're on your own, but it doesn't mean you're necessarily unhappy. So don't confuse those 2 phrases.
So alone is the state of just being on your own.
Yes.
You're just at home. You are at home. You are alone. There is no one else there. But
Yes.
you don't necessarily feel unhappy about the situation.
No. You could say, I don't feel happy being alone. So in other words, you're lonely. But if you were to just say, last night I was alone, it doesn't mean you're unhappy about it. You could say, I prefer to be alone. Whereas you wouldn't say, I prefer to be lonely, because being lonely is an unhappy state of mind.
So there is a distinction.
There is a distinction.
Between the 2. Alone, the state of being on your own, just one person, and lonely is the feeling of being lost and lonely. So you feel unhappy. It's generally speaking, it's a negative word.
Yes.
Lonely.
But you can use the word alone, not just to refer to a person, but also to a thing, an object. So you could have a house that stood alone, a house that stood alone. So there aren't any other houses around. Doesn't mean it's an unhappy house.
No.
It just happens to be a house that's on its own. So that's that. So, and you mustn't use the word alone in front of a noun. So you can't say an alone man or an alone woman. You would have to say a man on his own or a man alone. So you can't put alone in front of a noun because it doesn't make sense. You can't use it that way. Would you agree, Mr. Duncan?
That's it. Yeah. Yes. In its broadest sense, alone is just singular.
Yes.
So when we say something is alone, it is singular. One
Yes.
thing. One thing that might be in a space where there is no other things around. Okay?
So that's that. And then we've also got, whereas in America, they have to score. Because I've been in the garden skipping, and the cold air is got into my lungs and my throat, and it's making me cough.
We have
lonesome.
we have noticed.
Lonesome is a word that sometimes Jeff might back us up on this. If that lonesome is a word. It means lonely, but it's not a word that's often used in the UK. It's a word that I presume is still used in the US. The dictionary says it is. Lonesome. Lonesome, you're on your own. You're lonely, you feel unhappy.
There was a famous song by Laurel and Hardy, The Trail of the Lonesome Pine. In the Blue Ridge Mountains of Virginia, on the trail of the lonesome pine.
Well done, Mr. Duncan. I was going to say that, suggest that. Lonesome or lonely, pine. So there we go, referring to a tree that's on its own. It's probably not unhappy because it doesn't know what unhappy is. So here's the other word that is the third word, lone. So that lone wolf is an idiot, is a phrase. But lone, if we let's talk about the word lone, that's similar to alone. You can sometimes use them interchangeably, but when we refer to the word lone, it just means a single thing that's on its own, a situation whereas there is only one object involved. Whereas sometimes you can have, when we're talking about alone, it's slightly different. So alone is a single thing, unaccompanied. But it's used in a slightly different way in a sentence. So when we're using the word lone wolf, that means a wolf that's on its own. It doesn't mean it's unhappy. You can have a lone sailor. So a sailor that's at sea on his own. You can have a lone gunman. So it just refers to a single object that's on its own. You'd have a lone tree as well, or a lone pine, as Mr. Duncan described. So when you use the word lone, it's referring to a single object that's on its own.
What about...
But whereas this actually, a lone wolf actually is a phrase that refers to somebody that's spends a lot of time on their own.
So maybe
Not talking. So a wolf spends lots of time on its own hunting for food. If you describe a person as a lone wolf, it means a person who spends a lot of time on their own and maybe is very independent. A very independent person is quite happy to be on their own.
Yes.
So you somebody at work, you could describe them as a lone wolf.
Yes.
They just sit at their desk all day working away. They don't really interact with anybody else. They're quite happy.
Yes.
So a lone wolf.
You'll often hear this as well used if there's a shooting, such as the assassination of Kennedy. So when Kennedy was assassinated, they said, was it a lone gunman?
Yes.
So a lone gunman means one person was responsible.
Yes.
One person was involved.
Whereas when you use the word alone, it could refer to a group of people. They were alone in the woods. It could be 5 or 6 people all together alone. Whereas when you use the word lone, it is just one person or one thing on its own. That's the difference there. But lone wolf, it refers to a person. It's an idiom, isn't it? Would you say it was an idiom, Mr. Duncan?
Yes, it is a kind of idiom because you're not really sort of using the proper term. So you're not using that expression in its proper term. So it would be described as an expression or an idiom. The other one we forgot was someone's just pointed out on the live chat, the Lone Ranger.
The Lone Ranger, yes.
A popular TV character with his boyfriend, Tonto.
Mr. Duncan.
The first gay characters on TV. It's
I think
true.
you're exaggerating there.
A bit of Brokeback Mountain. A bit of Brokeback Mountain going on there, I think.
But the Lone Ranger, somebody who is looking after some land, an area, protecting an area of land, and they're on their own. They're quite happy to be. That's the job.
Yes. They have no choice.
So that's lone, alone, and lonely.
Yes.
So lone and alone doesn't necessarily mean unhappy. Lone is when it's a single thing that's on its own, or you can use alone. Lonely means you're on your own and you're unhappy. Definitely means you're unhappy.
Yes. So there are some distinctions between those words, and even though people tend to put them all together. Now, something else we've mentioned, we're going to have a look at this very soon. We are going to talk all about the Chinese New Year. And also it is the Lunar New Year coming. And of course, the Lunar New Year, the Chinese New Year this year, is the year of...
The pig.
Wee, 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 wee.
Mr. Jarrett says their wolves live in herds usually. Yes, they do, but they occasionally have to go off on their own to hunt. That's where that expression comes from.
Mr. Steve has a pig.
You're saying I'm a pig, Mr. Duncan?
Mr. Steve has a pig on his shoulder because next week it is the Chinese New Year, the Lunar New Year, and it will be the year of the pig. In Japan, it will be the year of the boar. And I'm not referring to Mr. Steve.
Boar, of course, has 2 meanings.
And
several meanings.
Yes, well, you have some words and expressions to do with this particular animal later on. We'll have a look at those. But first of all, we're going to have a little break. We're going to have a look at one of my full English lessons. We are also talking about prizes today, aren't we, Steve? Prizes?
We are.
Have you ever won a prize? Later on, I will show you a prize that I won many years ago. Now, I've never won a big prize. I've never won money, ever. I've never won money, and I've never won a big prize. But I have to say, I have won small prizes in the past. And the other question, of course, is one we covered earlier. Do you ever feel lonely? Do you ever get the feeling of being lonely? So if you are alone and you don't like being alone, you will feel lonely. All of that coming a little bit later on. But right now, we're going to have a look at one of my full English lessons. And this is Full English number 24. One of the things I love about English is how some words sound made up and unreal. Some English words are amusing to say and hear. Words with strong consonant sounds tend to be the ones that stand out the most. Words such as pimple, bubble, nibble, pump, nanny, wobble, blink. If you are trying to be humorous, then the use of certain words will guarantee that laughter will be heard. We often make embarrassing things seem less humiliating by giving them funny names. I need a wee-wee. I need to take a poop. The tense of certain English words can also sound unreal or made up. For example, the past tense of dive is dove. The past tense of forbid is forbade. The past tense of forsake is forsook. The past tense of shrink is shrank. The past tense of shine is shone. The past tense of leap is leapt. Another curious word is manslaughter. This word means the crime of killing a person without premeditation or malice aforethought. A non-intentional killing is manslaughter. What is interesting about this word is if you split the letters in a certain place, then you get man's laughter, which seems very inappropriate given the nature of the original word. Manslaughter. Man's laughter.
Do you like my new coat? I bought it in the sales. I thought I would treat myself. What is it about treating yourself to something new that makes it such a joy? Sometimes it is nice to treat yourself to something. It doesn't have to be something large and expensive. You can treat yourself to something small too. This new coat is not only my treat, but it is also something I needed. My previous coat is now old and worn out, which is not surprising as I've had it for over 10 years. I don't buy new clothes very often. I might buy the occasional t-shirt and maybe a pair of socks to replace a worn-out pair. I'm certainly no big spender. The past tense of buy is bought. You buy something. You have bought something. Not to be confused with the past tense of bring, which is brought. Can you see what is hanging from this tree? Come on, take a closer look. Don't be shy. What you can see here is a certain type of fruit. These are damsons. A damson is a plum-like fruit that grows in the summer, both here in Britain and across Europe. Their flavour is not all that sweet. In fact, they can sometimes taste quite sour. You might even say that the damson has an astringent taste, which can be quite harsh and bitter. Despite that, damsons do make great jam, which is exactly what I will be doing soon with these particular damsons hanging here. There are enough damsons here to make over 30 pots of jam, which is more than enough to keep me going until next summer. At the end of this season, I will cut this damson tree back a little, as it is starting to become too large and is in danger of overgrowing. To cut back a tree or bush so as to prevent it becoming too large is called pruning. This damson tree needs to be pruned. I will prune it. I will give it a trim.
And of course, there are many, many more video lessons on my YouTube channel. For those who want to get in touch with me, you can write to this address, and also you can follow me on Facebook as well. It is a Sunday, it's a fun day, and it's time to improve your English. Yes, we are live on YouTube. It's Mr. Duncan and Mr. Steve. Are you okay, Steve?
I'm very well.
Steve has had a super week this week. He's had a brilliant week, haven't you? Because you're quite excited because this week you won a prize. Now, for those who missed it, tell us again what's actually happened. What's actually happened?
Oh, Mr. Duncan, I'm too modest to keep on saying what's happened. I was what we call Rep of the Year.
Now, we don't give too much away because we don't want to talk about your job in
I wasn't
detail.
going to, Mr. Duncan.
So,
but
yeah.
yes, I was. Yes. Anyway, we've said it. We've said it.
So in Steve's company, he was the top of everyone in the company, and because of that he won a prize, and he's won a lovely holiday. We don't know where. and not only has Steve won a holiday, but he's taking me as well, so we can go together.
If you behave yourself, Mr. Duncan.
I always behave myself. What are you talking? What are you suggesting there?
Well, maybe a bit more housework wouldn't go amiss.
I can't do any more. It takes me It takes me a whole day to clean your dirty underwear.
If you want to come with me on my free holiday, the prize, you've got to earn it.
Dear.
You know, there's a few people who'd like to go with me on a holiday.
I really don't know what I have to do now. I'm very worried.
You know, step out of line and maybe I'll take somebody else.
Does it involve rubber gloves and Vaseline?
Oh, don't be disgusting, Mr. Duncan.
I hope not. It's a Sunday afternoon.
We saw some interesting comments while we were watching, while your video was playing. We saw a few interesting comments.
The live chat, that's what Mr. Steve's talking about. So there it is.
Yes. Oh, well, you picked out the one by Andrea.
So, first of all, Chico says alone, loan plus ly equals lonely. But alone and lonely, don't forget, they are different things. So alone is something that is singular. It is not surrounded by anything. Maybe a person is alone. And lonely is the feeling of being lost. you are alone and you don't like it.
It's an emotional state of mind.
And Andrea says, does on his own mean alone? Yes, if you are on your own, it means you are with no one else. You are alone.
You just use it slightly differently in a sentence. So if you were at work, for example, and you were working by yourself, you could say, I worked on my own today. But you wouldn't say, or you could say, I worked alone. So they do mean the same thing. But in fact, but there's a subtle difference, I think, in the implication of what you're saying.
Yes.
So if you say, I worked on my own, doesn't mean that there's necessarily a bad thing or an unhappy thing. But if you were to say, oh, I worked alone, by using the word alone instead of on your own, it implies a certain unhappiness in there, I think.
Yes.
So yes, if you do something on your own,
Yes.
then there's no real implied unhappiness in what you're saying.
So the context is slightly different.
The context is slightly different.
And
yes.
also it depends on what the context is. So I spent the whole day alone. Now that can be negative
Yes.
because of the way you're expressing it. So it's not just about the words you use, but also the way you express it. The expression itself, I spent the whole day alone.
But if you said, I spent the whole day on my own, that
Yes.
also could be negative.
That's it.
It's the subtle difference in every sentence.
Yes. Or you could say, I spent the whole day alone. Well,
Yes.
I'm saying that I'm alone, but I was glad to be alone. So it's not necessarily the words that you use, but the intonation, the way in which you say it.
Yes, that's it. And you can't use alone at the word. You can't use the word alone in front of a noun.
Mutatoto is
Grammatically, that wouldn't be right.
here. No. Mutatoto is here. Hello, Mr. Duncan, Mr. Steve. You two are the great teachers. Well, don't forget, I'm the English teacher, and Mr. Steve is my wonderful co-host. So Mr. Steve is here as the co-host, and I'm the person that teaches English on YouTube. But you enjoy doing this now, don't you, Steve?
Yes, I do. Mr. Jarek says that he's had a prize by singing in a choir. Collectively. So yes, not a personal one, but the choir got a prize. Did you win a competition, or were you the best out of a certain region or area of choirs? So yes, if it's still a prize.
I'm just remembering something, Steve.
What's that, Mr. Duncan?
You've just made me remember something. Remember that time you took part in that singing contest?
Yes.
And you came first.
I came first, yes.
You won this wonderful trophy, but the problem was there were only 2 people taking part.
Yes.
Do you remember that?
I do remember that. There were only 2 of us, so it was a 50-50 chance.
I just think that is brilliant. We went all the way to Lichfield.
I know.
And Mr. Steve was singing in this contest, and there were lots of different categories.
Yes.
And your category, there was only 2 people taking part. So the chance of you actually coming first was 50-50. And in fact, you did. And you came home with this big cup.
It was a giant cup, which obviously for many years ago that particular competition was very popular. And there was a lot of people that would take part, probably 20 or 30 people. And it was probably a very valued prize. But because singing has become that type of singing, those types of singing competitions where it's not pop songs, this was a singing competition for sort of more classical music, isn't popular anymore. There were only 2 people in that particular competition singing. I was singing Lieder, I think, which is a type of German song.
Okay.
And that's not popular anymore.
Okay.
But yes, that was funny.
Mr. Bruno says, I once won a ride in a hot air balloon. It was a beautiful experience. Now, to be honest with you, there are 2 things that I would never like to do. Can you guess what they are, Steve?
Go up in a hot air balloon. Is that one of them?
One of them is go up in a hot air balloon.
Is the other one a helicopter?
I would never ever go in a hot air balloon. I don't know why. They always look so precarious. They look so fragile when they're in the sky.
They do. I think the thing is, if something goes wrong with a hot air balloon, it tends to come down quite slowly. I think if a hot air balloon goes wrong...
Yes, but a hot air balloon comes down slowly.
Well, if, for example, it has to stay afloat, you have to have a burner, don't you?
Have you ever seen a hot air balloon crash?
I know they can spectacularly crash, but usually they, if for example, the burner stops working...
Yes.
They usually sort of drift down fairly slowly, but you might hit some power lines.
Yes.
A helicopter, I mean, once that's gone wrong, you're just going to plummet to earth, aren't you?
You never want to lose control of a hot air balloon because you could go anywhere. You could crash into the side of a cliff. But sometimes the hot air balloon will catch fire.
Yes, they do
and
sometimes.
Then it burns, and then the basket where all the people are standing, it just crashes to the ground like a stone. So no, I don't want to go in a hot air balloon. Also, helicopters scare me. I'm very scared of helicopters.
Nota says, I don't trust hot air balloons, helicopters or aeroplanes.
Well, I'm okay with aeroplanes as long as they're big ones. So
yes.
we both share this opinion. We don't like small aeroplanes, so tiny, light aircraft, like the Cessna.
Yes.
A Cessna is a type of light airplane, and they're always crashing. So no.
Well, I don't think
nothing. Well, you know what I mean. I don't mean they're always crashing, but
yes.
They crash more often.
Well,
than jumbo jets.
I'll tell you. Well, they do, yes, because big commercial airlines have to follow incredibly strict rules and regulations before they can fly their aeroplanes out of airports, particularly in the UK, Europe and America. You're not allowed to fly a plane in or out unless you follow very, very strict rules. Whereas the smaller planes, I don't think the same regulations apply because obviously there's less people in them.
Yes.
And one thing I've noticed, and we've both noticed, and there've been a lot of reports recently about this, that lots of people who become very wealthy often get or go up in small aeroplanes, small private planes, or helicopters.
Yeah.
The number of incidents of these crashing and all the people dying is there seems to be one almost every week.
Yes. Well, recently there was the chairman of the owner of Leicester City.
Yes.
So he was taking off. He took off actually at the stadium that he owned, and the helicopter crashed in the car park just outside because part of the helicopter failed. And also there was that terrible story last week of the football player who it would appear has been lost over the English Channel. A light aircraft just plunged into the sea, it would appear. So I would never ever go on helicopters or in a hot air balloon or in a light aircraft. I don't mind big airplanes. It's strange, isn't it? I don't mind getting on a large aeroplane.
Well, statistically,
it's fine.
It's far safer to go up in a commercial aeroplane than it is even driving a car.
Yeah.
Because I mean, every year on the roads in the UK, there's about 5,000 or 6,000 people die on the roads just in the UK alone. Well, if that number of people died in commercial aircraft, there'd be an outcry. Nobody dies in commercial aircrafts quite often. I mean, when they do crash, a lot of people die all at once, which is why it makes the headline news.
Yes.
But if you look at the statistics, travelling by road is by far the most dangerous thing that any of us ever do on a daily basis. As soon as you get in that car, that's a very, very dangerous environment to be in. Far safer to go up in a commercial aeroplane. But I don't know about helicopters because less. I don't know how many people die in helicopters per number of journeys. You'd have to work all that out. But yeah, certainly travelling by car is probably the most dangerous thing that any of us ever do on a daily basis. And we don't realise it.
And yet you would never think that.
No.
You would never think the thing that I'm climbing into now, the car that I'm getting into, is more likely to kill me than getting in a large jumbo jet.
Far more. and according to the insurance companies, if you travel more than 20,000 miles a year in your car, which I do, and anybody that's in sales or does a lot of van driving or anything like that, if you travel, I think it's 20 or 25,000 miles a year in your car, that is classified as the same risk as a deep sea diver, commercial deep sea diver.
Wow.
And we all think that's a risky profession. But statistically, if you do more than 20,000 miles a year, you're in the same risk category in terms of how the insurance industry would put your risk. So yes, exactly. I've been in a small aircraft, a 25-seater aircraft, and I'll tell you, it was the most frightening experience. I've been in them a few times. When you go in a small plane, you feel every bump and every air pocket. And coming into land, oh blimey! I came into land once in Birmingham, and there was a strong wind blowing, and we all thought we were going to die. It was the scariest thing I've ever been in. So you can see why they would be more dangerous.
Did you scream?
No, but the air stewardess screamed. She was sitting by me. It was a very small plane, and she screamed. I mean, you don't want to hear the air stewardess screaming you're coming into land.
That's the worst thing possible.
I know.
If you're on a plane and you see the air crew, like the stewards and stewardesses, screaming and running around, it's not very good for the passengers. That's all I can say.
Yes, Jarek says if something happens in an aeroplane, that's what we're frightened about with aeroplanes. I think Mr. Jarek has got it there absolutely, because you know there's nothing that you can do. If that plane is crashing or something goes wrong, you know there's nothing you can do. You've got no control over that situation. But in a car, you obviously have more control. But in reality, if you look at the statistics, then no, you haven't, because lots of people die on the roads every year, and some countries it's a lot worse. When do you think 5,000 or 6,000 people a year die in the UK? We're quite a small country.
Yeah,
that's a lot of people dying every year.
Yes,
that's a lot of people
from falling out of the sky.
No, I'm on about driving.
Oh, I see. Well, you still might fall out of the sky if you go over the edge of a cliff in your car.
Where the regulations, the driving tests are a lot more lenient.
Anyway,
then it's a lot more than that.
Let's look at the live chat because we're running out of time. My husband used to parasail. Oh my goodness, that's another one.
Oh,
that's where you just strap a parachute to your back. And then you run off the side of a cliff, the edge of a cliff.
I couldn't do that.
Or you run with the parachute and then it takes off with you. I could never do that. The other one is hang gliding. Hang gliding. It's where you hang your body from a very flimsy piece of cloth. It looks a bit like a paper aeroplane.
Yes.
But then you just hang from it. No way. I like big planes. I like jumbo jets. I like commercial airlines. I feel very safe. A lot of people ask me, Mr. Duncan, are you afraid of flying? And I always say, no, I'm afraid of crashing. That's the only thing I'm afraid of. Flying is okay.
Sue Cat's uncle owned a Cessna.
Oh, okay.
And she went in one. That must have been very exciting when you were young, because you're not really thinking about the whether it's a frightening experience or not. You haven't, probably not old enough to get all these fears in your head about aeroplanes.
We're also talking about prizes and awards. Have you ever won a prize? Emma says, the only trophy that I received was from my English school, which was given for the person who attended all the classes. Oh, it sounds as if...
Well done.
It sounds like Emma was a very good student.
Ooh.
I think so.
And Nota says her husband used to parasail and he stopped because most of his friends died.
Yes, parasailing is very dangerous. There is also the other one. Have you ever heard of wingsuits?
I have.
Wingsuits. And this is literally an item of clothing that you wear, and it has little wings, wings under the arms. So you just run, jump over the edge of a cliff, or drop from an aeroplane, and then you fly with these little pieces of material.
So you're sort of gliding, aren't you?
Gliding and falling at the same time. And so many people have died doing that because you're going at such a fast speed, sometimes maybe 150, 200 miles an hour. And some of these people have actually smashed into the sides of rocky cliffs
Yes.
and mountains. Can you imagine that? Imagine. So you're traveling at about 200 miles an hour and then your body hits solid rock.
That's going to be a bit of a mess to clean up.
That's one. They're going to scrape you. They will scrape you off. It'd be like one of those cartoons. They'll be peeling you off the side of the mountain.
There was somebody who was actually in the news quite a lot here for that particular sport. I can't remember what it's called, and he was the main sort of well-known person in that sport, and he died, didn't he?
Yeah.
Because there's certain rock formations or holes in rocks that they try to fly through, or aren't there? There are certain physical features on mountains that you've got to try and aim for.
Yes.
If you're one of these sort of wingsuit, I don't know what they call it.
It is a wingsuit.
A wingsuit.
That's exactly what they
and
they
of course, if you miss. But anyway, these are people who we're wimps, really. These are people who are what we call adrenaline junkies.
Yes, I'm not a wimp.
They like dangerous sports that give them an adrenaline. It's like people who like to parachute out of an aeroplane.
That's another thing I would never do.
Tobogganing.
Tobogganing.
That's a dangerous sport.
What you jump out? You jump out of an airplane in a toboggan?
No. That would be dangerous. Yes.
It might be a new sport for 2019. It's where you go up in an aeroplane and you jump out of the plane in a toboggan.
Bungee jumping. That was another one, isn't it? Would you do a bungee jump?
Nothing like that.
No.
Anything that involves heights, jumping from heights, falling from heights, or being in an unsafe situation high up. Never.
Or those the fairground rides, or when you go to the what are those? I can't remember what you call it. My mind's gone blank, Mr. Duncan. Alton Towers is a famous place in this.
You mean a roller coaster?
Yes, roller coaster rides, that sort of thing. No, they're dangerous. Well, they're not dangerous, but they're scary.
Well,
I would never do that. Well, I have done them, but I don't like it.
What? Are there two people here? I have never done it. I have done it. I've never done it. I have done it. I like it. I don't like it. Okay then. There's not two people in here, is there?
Well, I have done it. I've been forced to do it, but I didn't enjoy it.
No.
It's fair to say we are not adrenaline junkies.
Well, I just don't like being dead. I prefer being alive.
Yes.
I prefer being alive, and that's why I don't do things that are risky, like jumping out of airplanes.
Chico says, yes, lots of people are scared of planes, but barely anyone is scared of cars. But statistically, you are far more likely to die in a car. Thousands, millions of times more likely to die in a car.
It's crazy when you think about it.
Than you are in a plane.
It's crazy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. You never think about it, though. You get in the car in the morning to go to work, and you never think, I might never come home again.
Bungee jumping, yes, Lewis mentions that. There was an article, actually, a news article, not recently here in the UK. I think it was a woman who was a grandmother of about 86, and she took a bungee jump because she wanted a bit of excitement in her
life,
latter years.
Did she get any excitement?
I don't know, but she did the bungee jump. Something I would never do.
Oh, I see. But she did survive.
There was a ride at Alton Park. Alton Towers is a famous what do you call a theme park?
A theme park. A theme park.
in the UK, and there was one called, I've been on it, there was one called The Runaway Mine. And
Okay.
it's the scariest thing I've ever done.
I heard of the corkscrew.
Yes, what's that other one where it sort of shoots you straight up in the air?
I don't know. I don't know what that's
there was
called.
a famous ride. Wherever you are, you'll have these theme parks. I don't like them.
They also call them white knuckle rides
Yes.
because when you're on them, you tend to grip with your hands, and then your knuckles, the parts on your back of your hand, they go white there. White knuckle rides.
Amusement park, theme parks. There's another name for these parks where it's just all scary rides.
Yes,
But I can't think what it's called now.
amusement park.
No, yes.
I don't think there is another word.
All right.
No, that's
So
it.
Alton Towers, what would you describe that as?
A theme park
Theme park.
or an
yes.
amusement park.
Yes, just lots of scary rides.
Yes. Talking of scary, Mr. Steve is here with me today.
And we're talking about
We are talking about the Chinese New Year and the Lunar New Year, because on Tuesday, the 5th of February. Oh, yes, of course, it's February. It's not easy to say, by the way. I always like to say February with the R in the middle, but a lot of people don't bother. They just say February.
February. I said my birthday is in February.
Ah, Mr. Steve's birthday is in, let me just work it out, 13 days? 13 days it will be Mr. Steve's birthday. Ooh, and I still have no idea what to buy you.
Jamila, says that she would like to go in a hot air balloon. I have been in a hot air balloon, Mr. Duncan.
Have you?
It was a tethered balloon,
Okay.
so it was tethered. In other words, it was tied down to the ground.
So it was still attached to the ground.
It was still attached to the ground, but it went up a long way. It was
How is that safer?
well, because it can't float away.
But it could still catch fire and crash to the ground.
Yes, but it's unlikely. But it wasn't. I don't think hot air balloons are that dangerous. You do hear of incidents, but I don't think they're the most. They're not as dangerous, I don't think, as people. As long as you go with a reputable company, it's probably, you see, hot air balloons. There's going to be very little regulation around these, so probably you can just set yourself up as a hot air balloon company and take people for rides.
Are you telling me that there are shops that just sell hot air balloons?
Well, I would imagine it's not that well regulated an industry.
Hello. I would like to buy a hot air balloon, please. I want to take my family up into the sky and wave to the birds.
Whereas commercial aircraft is heavily regulated for safety. Whereas I would imagine the hot air balloon industry doesn't have the same standards of safety as commercial aircraft do.
We are talking about the Chinese New Year and the Lunar New Year because it's on the way. It's on the way, everyone. And it's the year... It tried to run away there.
The year of the pig.
That's an angry pig.
Is it the year of the pig?
It's an angry pig, yes. Yes, the clue is in the animal here.
Right.
That's it, you see. That's why I'm waving a pig around. I've got the pig in my hand, not because I love pigs.
They've got 2 toes.
Hello.
They've got 2 toes, pigs.
A lot of people say that pigs are dirty animals, but in fact they're very clean. Very clean. They brush their teeth every night and they always take baths twice a day. So there we go. It's the year of the pig. And coincidentally, Mr. Steve has some words connected to this actual animal.
I do.
Now, I think you should have your own camera here.
But do help me, Mr. Duncan. 2 toes. Pigs have got 2 toes, apparently.
2 toes.
They've got hoofs. They've got hooves.
But 2 toes.
But two sort of toes, weight-bearing toes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Don't sheep have 2 toes?
I don't know, but pigs do.
Yes, I think sheep have 2 toes.
You could well be right.
2 toes.
How many toes do you have, Mr. Duncan?
I have 10, but they're very, very. My toes are like fingers. I have very long toes.
He does. It's freakish.
They're very scary. They're
If you ever lost a finger, you could cut a toe off and sew it in place, and you wouldn't know the difference.
Yes, when I die, I'm going to donate my toes to medical science. So if anyone loses a finger, they can attach one of my toes to their hand, and it will just look like a finger.
They do. They're freakish.
It's pig time.
Right.
So Mr. Steve is now going to grace his personal camera.
Tell me when, and I can make it look very slick. Is that it? Am I on?
You are?
So pig, yes. Well, just the use of the word pig can be used in different ways. Pig obviously it's an animal, but if you refer to a person as a pig, then you're saying that they're disgusting. If you say you pig to somebody, it means they're greedy or disgusting, or they behave in a disgusting or rude way. An obnoxious person who doesn't perhaps conform to social etiquette. A pig. So, I mean, we think of a pig as being a bit of a disgusting animal sometimes, don't we? Because of the way they eat. And they make a lot of noise. So if you describe a person as a pig, it's not very nice. You wouldn't like to be described as a pig, but it doesn't necessarily refer to the way you eat. It also refers to the way you behave in society or behave towards people. It's also a slang word in the UK, particularly for the police. So if you call the police pigs, that is a word that they would not like at all. But it's probably used by criminals to describe the way that police behave towards them. Look out, here come the pigs, is what you might say if you were a criminal. You wouldn't say that as a law-abiding citizen. If you were to say that to a policeman to his face, you'd probably get arrested. It also refers to a crude block of metal, like pig iron. Pig iron is crude iron that comes out of the smelter. It's not very refined. Pig iron. So it's unrefined block of metal. So there we go. That's uses of the word pig. Now, Mr. Duncan, if you were to eat like a pig, people might say that you pig out. You pig out. It's a slang word. Or you could say make a pig of yourself, or stuff yourself would be sort of synonyms. It means to eat ravenously, quickly, noisily, like a pig would eat, to pig out, or to eat a lot of something. After Mr. Duncan's live show, I'm going to pig out on a cake. It means you just stuff yourself with cake very, very noisily, just like a pig would. The children pigged out on ice cream. So it just means that you eat ravenously or noisily or quickly on something. Have you ever pigged out, Mr. Duncan?
Have I? Yes, I normally, if I'm on my own, if I'm feeling lonely, I might eat some food to make me feel comfortable.
Pig out. It means you're gluttonous.
Yes, I will eat a pile of food.
Pig out on a big cake.
To eat a large amount of food in one go. You feel like you need to pig out.
Stuff yourself stupid.
Stuff your
would
face.
Be another phrase you could use.
Overeat.
Overeat, yes. Well, here's another one. When pigs fly. When pigs fly. This is a sarcastic remark to indicate that something is very unlikely to happen or will never happen. A synonym would be when hell freezes over. You could use that instead. But when pigs fly, you might say, oh, do you think he will pay you the money back that you loaned to him last month? And you might say, oh, when pigs fly, So you've lent some money to somebody, but you're not expecting them ever to give it you back. I asked my boss if I could have a 10% pay rise, and he said, when pigs fly. So when you say that, obviously pigs are never going to fly. It's something that's highly unlikely to happen. They haven't got wings. So if you use that expression when you're not expecting something ever to happen, and you use it sarcastically, that phrase has been around since the 1600s. So it's hundreds and hundreds of years old. Something that's unlikely ever to happen, used sarcastically. Now, an American expression, pig in a poke, if Jeff's still watching. I don't know whether they still use that phrase there, but it does come up if you Google ways to use the word pig. Pig in a poke. And we've certainly seen films from America where they've used this expression. And it means buying something without properly examining it first. So if you buy something over the phone, for example, and someone describes it to you, and then you buy it, and then you get it delivered to you, and it's nothing like it was described, you can describe that as a pig in a poke, because a poke is a bag. It's a slang word for a bag. And if you buy something that's in a bag without seeing it properly, that refers to the way they used to sell goods hundreds of years ago. Then if you didn't see that object before you bought it, you might end up buying something that was worth a lot less than you actually expected it to be worth. People sometimes describe internet shopping, or if you buy something on eBay or on an online site, auction site, and you don't see it properly, or the picture didn't represent it properly, and you got properly, and you got it, it was delivered. You describe it as a pig in a poke, something that was not as it was described. The car I bought turned out to be a pig in a poke. There was lots wrong with it that you couldn't see. That originates, again, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, from the 1500s. But it's not an expression we tend to use in the UK. It's mainly an American expression, and hopefully they do still use it there. Someone will tell us. Now, bacon is a meat, a particular type of meat that is derived from the pig. Bacon it's preserved. It's preserved pork, salted, very salty. They use salt as a way of preserving it, preserving meat. And if you preserve pork with salt and preservatives, then it's described as bacon. And it's a type of meat that's very popular here in the UK. Bacon and eggs. It's got a particular flavour. It's quite salty. A bacon sandwich. Everybody in the UK loves a bacon sandwich. Apologies if anybody is Muslim and watching, because they definitely would not be eating bacon. But if somebody brings home the bacon, that's a phrase which is very similar to a phrase we used last week. The breadwinner is somebody who earns all the money and enough to buy the food and everything needed in the house. So if somebody brings home the bacon, they are the person, the main person who earns money in the family. So they earn the living, and it literally is meaning. It derives from a phrase, an Old English phrase, when a prize was given. This is hundreds of years ago. They used to give a prize in this particular part of the country, and I think it went all over the country eventually. It was a prize given, a big side of bacon, so a big hunk of meat of bacon given as a prize to a household. I can't remember. I don't know why they gave them this prize, but they did. And that phrase has stuck for all these years to mean somebody who actually is earning the money to buy the meat, to buy the food in the family. So you could use it. You could say, for example, that if a man and woman, if the woman was earning most of the money, you could say sarcastically, or it's the wife that brings home the bacon in that family. So rather than the man earning all the money, it's the woman that's earning the money. Bring home the bacon. Here's another one. Mr. Duncan.
I wonder.
Tell porkies.
Oh, so this is quite an interesting.
Tell porkies.
This is an interesting one. This.
It is. Now, pork is the meat that comes from pigs. And I don't know where this expression comes from, because as far as I know, pigs don't tell untruths. But to tell porkies means that you tell lies. It means that you're telling untruths.
I know the answer.
Tell porkies.
I know.
Yeah, okay, in a minute, Mr. Duncan. It's a slang or derogatory. Well, to tell lies, it doesn't mean bad lies. Porkies are sort of like white lies, really, or fibs. They're not bad lies. To tell pork, if you say you're telling porkies, they're telling lies, but they're not bad lies. So, Mr. Duncan, where does this phrase come from?
The phrase porkies comes from the rhyming slang for pork pie.
Ah.
So pork pie, lie. You tell pork pies. You tell lies.
Well done, Mr. Duncan.
And so it has been altered to porkies. So you tell porkies.
And porkies is another expression that means pork pies. Have you got any porkies? So pork pies, lies, which they often do that in London, don't they? It's a sort of a London thing.
Well, it's Cockney rhyming slang.
Cockney rhyming slang or London rhyming slang.
Yeah. How you going there? Up the old apple and pears.
Ah, so that's where that comes from, Mr. Duncan. Well done. The internet was very poor at explaining that to me. So, for example, Mr. Duncan, how old are you, Mr. Duncan? Can you tell me?
I'm 23.
23. Oh, I think you're telling porkies, Mr. Duncan. Pork
Okay.
pies, lies.
Sorry, I lied. I'm 13. Yeah.
Yes, you could if you were looking at somebody's CV, curriculum vitae, the history of where they've been working, and you were interviewing someone. You said, I think you're telling porkies on your CV. I don't think you did that job then, or you've ever done that. Telling porkies, telling lies.
A small lie.
A small lie, a fib, a white lie.
Yes, a small lie.
Apparently, women tell far more porkies than men.
So, what are you
According
saying?
to the internet, I was looking this up today, and lots of things were coming up saying that women tend to tell more small little lies than men, and often that's because they don't want to upset people. Lies are often told, white lies, porkies, in order not to upset people. So perhaps it means women are more socially adept than men at keeping the peace and keeping everything, the oil moving in terms of society.
Keeping the oil moving.
Yeah, no, I don't know what I'm talking about. Mr. Duncan, put me back on the main camera. I'm losing it, Mr. Duncan.
Are you okay? Are you okay?
My blood sugar's dropping because I've been doing all that skipping. Am I back on?
You're back on. Mr. Steve is keeping the oil moving.
The oils of society. Is that an expression?
No.
What am I trying to say, Mr. Duncan?
I think you're on about the gears.
No, I'm not. The keeping everything well oiled.
The cogs.
Everything moving well.
Yes, the oil. Moving the oil.
I've just made up a new expression.
No, that will never catch on. Trust me.
So that's word. Can you think of any? Have I missed any out, Mr. Duncan? Words connected with pig or pork?
Well, you can just call someone a pig.
I said that.
Yes.
I said that earlier. You obviously weren't listening.
Well, what I was going to say is a nasty, rude person.
Yeah, that's what I said.
If they're rude to you.
Rude.
Oh, that was a bit
offensive. Pig.
But also you can use it as if you've had a bad day. You can say, I've had a pig of a day.
Yes, you can. I've had a pig of a day.
I've had a pig of a day today. That means I've had a bad day. So there you go. And also there's another one. Piggyback.
Piggyback.
Piggyback is where one person carries another person on their back. They put them on their back and they carry them. They give them a piggyback. But also it means to use one thing for something else, or maybe to share something. So maybe if you use your internet connection, maybe another person will use it as well. So maybe your next door neighbour will use it. They will piggyback. join on to your internet connection and they will share the same thing. They will do it together. So yes, to piggyback.
It means to carry something on your back, literally like a child. You would give a child a piggyback ride.
Yeah.
Or to share something.
That's it.
To have something, on, yeah.
Do you remember
the internet?
Do you remember when they used to send the space shuttle into space?
Yes.
So when they put the space shuttle used to piggyback on the back of the
booster rocket.
The booster rocket.
Yes.
So and also when they transported the space shuttle, they used to put it on the back of an aeroplane.
That's right.
That's incredible. So the space shuttle would piggyback. It would piggyback the jumbo jet, the large plane. So yes.
So the thing on top is getting a helping hand.
Yes.
To give somebody a helping hand, to give them a piggyback.
Yes, that's nice. So we've run over.
We have.
We are 7 minutes over time, but it doesn't matter. I'm sure people will forgive us for spending some extra time with them.
Can we have a quick look at the live chat before we go, Mr. Duncan?
The live chat before we disappear, and then we are out of here. So there we go. There is the live chat, Mr. Steve.
Oh, yes.
Tell porkies, is it a British or American expression? I think it's more a British expression. As I mentioned earlier, it comes from rhyming slang that is used in London. So if you tell porkies, it means you tell lies. And that comes from pork pies.
Tom X says, why did I apologise to Muslims? Well, because it's if you're a Muslim, you can't eat pork. So I don't think I would have offended anybody, but it's not something that if any Muslims watching, you can't eat pork.
I like the way Steve looked at me then for support. Also,
I would sort of jokingly apologise.
I think one of the things you've got to be careful of, you also missed out Jews.
Ah, right, okay.
So in the Jewish religion, they also avoid pork.
So we haven't. I thought we were going to get through a whole live stream without talking about religion, but we haven't.
No, well, certainly not where you're concerned, anyway.
I don't know if it's an American expression. Maybe Jeff can tell us. Do they use the word porkies?
No,
telling lies in America.
That's it. Well, it comes from Cockney rhyming slang, which is London-based.
Yes, but they may use it in America.
That's it. It may have made its way over the pond.
So there we go.
Mr. Duncan is 23 for sure. Oh, thank you very much. That's very kind of you.
Right.
Oh, if I win the lottery, I will bring home the bacon, says Guadalupe. Ah, yes, that's it, you see. Bring home the bacon. To bring home the...
Chico says, is bring home the bacon the same as the breadwinner? Yes, you could use those interchangeably.
We used that last week, didn't we?
We did, yes, we did.
We did.
I did mention that. Matrix, yeah.
Matrix points out that Jews do not eat bacon. Yes, we've already mentioned that. I mentioned that. I knew that. Mr. Steve...
That's just above Matrix there. That's a good use of the word. Guadalupe says, I work hard to bring home the bacon.
That's it.
That's a lovely way to use the expression.
That's it, you see.
Bacon just refers to anything that you would use with your wages to buy food.
Yes, or, of course...
literally mean bacon.
Bacon is cured meat. So meat that is being cured, preserved.
With salt.
But nowadays, a lot of people think that bacon is very unhealthy because it's full of chemicals and preservatives.
Well, of course, they used to just preserve it with salt, but now it's full of all sorts of preservatives, so that's why it's not very healthy.
So it's time to go, Mr. Steve. Oh, it's gone so fast today.
It has. We've had fun today.
It's gone very fast, very quickly.
I hope you've all enjoyed it as well.
I hope you've enjoyed today's live stream. We are going. Thanks a lot to Palmyra, Anna, Jeff, also Jamelia. Thank you very much.
Cat.
Keep it up, guys. See you next Sunday. Yes,
Jeff.
We are back next Sunday, the 10th next week.
It's the 10th.
Already. We're almost halfway through February next week. Can you believe it? Because, of course, this month is a short month.
It is.
And it's only 13 days to Mr. Steve's birthday as well. But what shall I buy, Mr. Steve? I don't know. I have no idea. If you'd like to get in touch, of course, you can do. And also, I will remind you of when we are on Live English every Sunday from when, Mr. Steve?
2 p.m.
UK time. And of course, if you want to make a donation, you can make a donation on PayPal to allow my work to continue so I can continue doing this forever and ever and ever. Does that sound like a good idea?
It does.
I think so. So we're going now. Thanks a lot. Thanks, Helena Hung. Thanks, Mr. Jarek. Thank you very much to everyone here today. Rosa, also, I think Mr. Bruno.
Oh, Sukat's going on holiday on the 10th.
Oh, very nice. Where are you going, Sukat?
Does that mean you won't be here next week?
Are you going somewhere nice?
Have a lovely holiday.
Have a nice holiday. I hope you get lots of sunshine. So that's it. Time to go.
All right. Goodbye. Bye, everybody. See you next week. And, well, I was going to say ta-ta for now, but Mr. Duncan says that.
You can say it.
So I'm going to make the tea cakes now. And then after that, I'm going to go and walk the neighbour's dog.
Oh, yes, of course.
Because she's still ill and can't take a dog for a walk.
That's it.
So I'm doing my neighbourly thing.
You know what I'm
good
thinking.
neighbour thing.
You know what I think, Steve? I think you'll be doing this forever.
I won't.
That's it. So you will be walking the dog for our neighbour forever. That's it. You've made that big...
Well, the dog's quite old, so I don't think it's going to last that much longer anyway.
Oh, okay then.
Right.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure.
I'm going to pig out now on the Mr. Dunk.
Are you okay?
My blood sugar's dropped. I can't think of anything. What do we eat? I've forgotten what we eat now.
Tea cakes.
Tea cakes. I'm going to pig out on tea cakes, Mr. Duncan, because my blood sugar's dropped. I'm just going to stuff food into my mouth.
I think we might need an ambulance.
I think I need a holiday.
I think
Bye-bye.
so. I
Bye-bye.
think so. Mr.
We've got to
Steve-
wait till June for our free one.
Oh dear, yes. Mr. Steve's going, and he's gone now. Mr. Steve has gone. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much for that. I am also going. Sadly, it is time to go, but I will see you very soon. There is the view outside at the moment. You can see the view outside. It is dark. It is getting dark. And it's time to go. Oh, parting is such sweet sorrow. But don't worry, I will be back next Sunday from 2 p.m. UK time. This is Mr. Duncan in the birthplace of English saying thanks for following today. I hope you've enjoyed it. You can get in touch if you want. If you would like to say hello, you can. You can write to my email address, or if you want, you can follow me on Facebook as well. Catch you later. And of course, you know what's coming next. Yes, you do. Until the next time we meet here on YouTube. Ta-ta for now.